Poet, chat with folks who speak on behalf of their respective communities. Today, I'm so excited. I keep saying that about these episodes, but I'm always excited. I think I just get really awesome guests. So this person really got excited about me having this podcast, and I got excited about them getting excited about me having this podcast, and I asked them to be a part of it. And yes, I had to pull some teeth to get them here, but I'm super excited that they're going to be speaking today because they were super passionate about the topic and the community in which they'll be speaking on behalf of. So I am hyped to have my friend who I've known for a lot of years, because I seem to know people for years. If you know me, then you're just stuck with me for years. That's just what it is. So that said, I'm not going to say anything else. We're just going to get into the conversation. Hey, tell folks your name.
Hi, my name is Rohi Mirza Pandya, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yay, I'm so happy you're here too. It's so great to see you again, first off. It's been a lot of years since we've actually seen each other.
Yes.
I think the last time I've seen anyone in your family was actually when MJ died. I think I was going to your sister's show and on that day, and that was the last time I've seen anyone.
That's a long time ago too.
It's a long time ago. We really have to fix that, but it doesn't mean we have not been in touch and been in contact and communication. So tell us your pronouns.
She, her are my pronouns.
Awesome. And tell us about yourself.
I'm so happy to be here. I think this is wonderful. I am very excited about this podcast. I think this is amazing. And so I'm a producer in film. I do media consulting for South Asian films in the community, Hollywood and Bollywood films. I also I'm a filmmaker and I produce films as well. I just finished off a shoot this past weekend. I have many different identities. I guess I am Pakistani Filipina via Canada. So I think that
Hey.
via Canada. Yeah. And what else? What else can I tell you about me? I'm a Rafa Nadal super fan, like a real super fan. So I just love tennis. Serena's my girl.
Okay.
What else?
A mom?
Oh, yeah, thanks. Tara's like, let me remind you, 14-year-old and 12-year-old. Yes, I'm a proud mom. What other identities do I have?
just maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you were still one. I thought you were. I know I got my Girl Scout cookies from someone.
Yes. Yes, one of my kids is a Girl Scout, and the other one is going to LaGuardia for vocals. Oh. Yeah, we're excited for him to be, at the fame school.
Wait, this was just decided, right? This is just yes. Okay, that is awesome.
Yeah,
that is so awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks. We're the stress is off that he decided on a high school, and it's good. It's good. I think that, I run in my spare time when I try to run. I ran the New York Marathon like a million years ago, which is my one thing. I have to always stick that into every conversation because I ran that. I did.
So wait, did you run it were you did you do a 9+1, or did you qualify to get to it, or how did you get into that?
It was 9+1, and
nice.
I think it was a long time ago. Was it 10 years ago? Something like that, somewhere 8, 9 years ago. But it was a great experience. And run is I use that term lightly.
Hey,
I did it.
Here's the thing. So for those who don't know what 9+1 is, to qualify for the marathon, the year prior to that marathon, you have to participate in 9 sanctioned runs and volunteer for one. And so that's a 9+1. And so the following year, you are now qualified and grandfathered into the marathon. So that's that. having done the Avon walk, which was a marathon over 2 days or a marathon and a half, just
Right.
having walked it,
Yes.
after I completed the 26 miles over the 26.2 miles over the 2 days, and I was like, the next weekend was a marathon, I just looked at people and I was just like, yes.
You feel you feel that. That was a lot. That's a lot of miles.
Yes. And then you just
Yeah.
And so my hat's off to you. Wear that badge proudly forever.
And you did the Avon walk, so I'm like, yes, put it in every conversation.
Yes. Because people don't be understanding. You see so many people do it. They think that everyone can just do it. No. I have a permanent injury from having done it.
Yeah, same here. That's why I'm like, I'm a runner, but it doesn't really, I can't really run that well anymore.
I tell people I used to be a distance walker. Right now, my distance is down the block, but I hope to get some mileage back under me at some point. So I feel you. So, you told me what communities you were part of by telling me about yourself. Are there other communities you're part of? Just generally speaking, you mentioned being a fan or a stan.
That was my only one. But I'm mostly in the filmmaking community. I think that being part of the South Asian community as well as the Asian community, that's really important to me. Being mixed race is really important. I think that it's hard to find your identity and belonging when you're a mixed race in America. I think it always is a little hard, but I think especially when you're mixed race. And my sister actually has a show which is called Banging It, which kind of explores that topic a bit. It's about a mixed race girl who goes to college and is part of a Bhangra collegiate team. And through this team, she discovers where she belongs in her identity. I think that that's a real interesting way to look at that topic, especially now when everyone's kind of exploring their identity and where do they belong. And so, yeah, that's why I feel like my expertise lies is kind of like more in the how it feels like to be a mixed race kid.
So that's the community in which we're speaking of on behalf of today, then I take it.
Yes, that's right.
So it's crazy because when you said that to me, I was like, wait, what? Wait, who's mixed race? I was like, your kids are, I know who you are. Huh? Like,
who's the mixed race person here?
I really had a moment of like, huh? And then I had to like, okay, are you mixed race? So you said it in your description of who you are, but can you say again, where is the mixing coming from?
Oh, right. So my father is from Pakistan and my mother is from the Philippines. So, and I was born in Canada. So, and those are very two different races. I think that like my father being from Pakistan is South Asian and my mom being from the Philippines is more Asian, or I guess identify that as Pacific Islander. I'm not exactly sure how they identify that as in the census, but I feel like it's a different race. Even though the culture may be similar, it's definitely different, and it's definitely something you navigate with when you're a child of mixed race.
Yeah. So how did you navigate that?
Well, I think that like for the most part, we kind of like gravitated towards my father's religion, my father's culture. And that's probably why you're like, wow, you're really South Asian. I don't see any of the Filipina in you. but as I grew older, as I went to college and I explored more about myself, I felt more affinity to my Filipina side. My sister and I formed a theater company called Decapina, which Desi means kind of South Asian from the motherland, and Pina means like that's the last half of Filipina. So we're Decapinas.
That's where the name comes from. Okay, I got it now. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, now it's like, okay, it's all coming together.
Yes. I mean, like, so for those who don't know, I've known Ruhi for like a lot of years. Her husband is like best friends with my brother. And so we've known, I mean, I'm a lot of years younger than my brother, but they're like all of my brother's friends are like my big siblings, you know? And then I was old enough to hang out with the cool kids. So I've done a little partying with the cool kids, and I've gone to some shows or supported because I'm also in that arts world. So I've seen some shows or have known or followed some of their work, but I did not know where the name came from. So I really appreciate the breakdown of the name.
And those shows that we did back in the day, like, I guess we could date ourselves. I mean, I think that we've probably known each other for 20 years. Let's say 20.
That's a good guess. Yeah.
And those shows that we did, I think maybe 17 years ago, about 17 years ago, they were, we tried to put everybody on the same stage together, like East Asians, South Asians, Black, white, everybody on the same stage together. And we didn't call it diversity back then. That was just us, living in the landscape of America. We didn't call it inclusion. We didn't call it belonging, but that was what it was. And I think that when we did 7-Eleven, which was
I do remember that.
I'm like, that's what you came to, Dara.
Yeah, I did go to 7-Eleven.
It was 7 11-minute plays or musicals, all set in a convenience store. And why did we use the convenience store? The convenience store was always this place, like the bodega for and the convenience store for Asians, for brown and Black and Asian, folk to be, where I feel like you see that's where you see the immigrant, is in that 7-Eleven or convenience store, So that's what we did. And we would make stories that weren't stereotypical of what you would normally see a brown person being in a store like that, or an East Asian person. So, and it was more, I think had more layers than just the regular roles that people back then, which was 17 years ago, would normally get.
And growing up, did you find that did you find it challenging being a mixed race child? Like, did you find it hard fitting in any particular group, or just even being a brown child in either, I mean, I guess you weren't in Canada long, from my understanding. So when you were growing up did you grow up in New York City as well, or did you just grow up in the United States somewhere?
So I lived in Canada till I was 3, and then we came to New Jersey. So that's where we lived, and that's where we grew up. New Jersey was really tough, I feel like. I think that we grew up in a predominantly like white neighborhood, which isn't great for people of color. So I think that I was a mixed race kid who doesn't know. We had a Filipino family that lived across the street from us, and they were great. And they lived there maybe for till I was 10, and they moved, so it was really hard to see where my identity was. I really enjoyed being a part of that family, but I wasn't really all Filipino, and my dad's culture was more dominant, so we would really do more South Asian or Pakistani things. So I think that it's tough being mixed race. I think that you think in yourself, like, where do I belong? I don't belong anywhere. I don't belong with this or that. I think when you're one immigrant culture, at least you could always feel like I belong to this culture, and feel like you could really anchor yourself with that. Whereas I feel like as a mixed race child, you just are always questioning. And I think that is part of the struggle in growing up in America.
So, is there something beautiful that you can say about being a mixed race child?
Yeah, I think that what's great about being a mixed race child is that you get to experience two different cultures. I think that like all cultures are awesome and that I really love Pakistani food. I really love Filipino food. I've been to both countries. They're both really beautiful countries. So it's just an expansion of your, I guess, knowledge of other cultures that makes it great being mixed race. And I think that, um, I think our children, like I have two kids who are mixed race. I think being they're Pakistani, they're South Asian from India, Gujarati, they're Filipina and Filipino, so like they're everything. It's great. I think that like being a little bit of everything, like I think really expands your knowledge.
That's awesome. Have they gotten to go to any of these places?
They've been to India.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we
Phil-
gotta get them to everywhere else.
Yes. I think Philippines should be next. Hopefully we can do that at some point. But that,
That's awesome. Yeah, I have a lot of friends who I say a lot like that's probably true, but I don't think that's true. I have long-standing friends who are Filipino, but I think it's also interesting, and I really would love to spend more time learning more about Filipino culture. That's actually one of the guests who has not been able to make an appearance yet because she's had some other things going on. But I've known her just about 20 years. And she's one of my writing partners. And you two would probably think you two would get along. She's a little harsh, but like, that's why I love her. I was like, you're a little nicer than she is. I'm not so sure.
Not nice. I'm not that nice.
Okay, well, you seem nicer to me, but she's gonna shoot me if when she watches this episode, but she'll also know it's true. But she does she actually does she and her friends wrote a play recently about mail order brides.
Okay.
And I think it was primarily focused on the Philippines.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that. It was definitely Asian, but I'm not exactly sure if it was Philippines specific or not. It was a great show, and I hope they get to like do. They launched it during the pandemic, so there was actually no live audience because it had just started spiking again. So all the live audience went straight to virtual. But similar work. So as you're talking about having representation on stage or in film, I'm just like, yeah, I need to connect you two. My brain's like, I need to connect you two. And then she wrote, and I think I've known her all this time, but this is the first time I've ever heard her write in her, and I don't know what language, I don't know. Yeah, yes. It's the first time I've heard her write in it. And so when we were in writing practice, half of her writing was in it. And I was just like, oh, okay. I don't know what you're saying, but this is amazing. Keep going, keep going. Like, I loved listening to it. I was like, I wish I knew what you were really saying, but this is an epic write. And I know this is epic. And I'm like, I'm here for every word.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't understand all of it, but I get the context, and this is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like a conversation between her and her brother, and so I think her brother's part was not in English, but I was like, this is still so amazing that I'm just like, yes, here for all of it. And it was also great because almost everyone else in the room is white, so it was like, keep speaking your native tongue, like keep going. Do it.
Like what I loved about like Brooklyn and we live in Brooklyn, and what I love about like our little bubble is that we went to a middle school that really centers Black and brown voices and immigrant voices. And at their graduation, um, everybody there, like whoever could speak a different language, I think they selected 5 kids and they did a little greeting in Korean, in Bengali, in Urdu, in Hebrew, in Russian, like all these kids that were part of that graduating class that could speak a different language was able to just participate and give a little greeting. And we didn't know what they were saying, but it was beautiful.
That is awesome. That's
I,
it's we benefit so much when we learn from other people and other cultures. Like I definitely and it's such a slippery slope, but like between Asian, South Asian, and Southeast Asian, and
Mhm.
those three terms being very specific to different communities. My mentee, one of my mentees, my first mentee is actually Bengali. And she's all of her activism and all of her main focus is back into the brown community. And so at one point I was like, all right, I'm gonna need you to teach me here. Like I need you to break this down for me because I know I'm not getting it right. And a lot of my friends are Chinese, but a lot of my Chinese friends are not so focused on the activism or the rest of the communities, and they don't know anything outside of their bubble. So I'm just like, all right, which one's which? Help me know help me get the right phrase for whichever one I need to say so that I know what. And I mean, I still keep forgetting it because my brain's not, I'm getting old, so like things don't stay as they should. But just like being able to like learn from her
Yeah.
and hear what her concerns are, and vice versa, and just like and the commonalities between us, and it's so like even just like when we talk about the colorism between her community and the Black community, and just like we all got messed up by some people.
Yeah. We all got colonized.
Exactly.
So we gotta uncolonize that shit. Oh,
Exactly.
I was not sure if I could. You could
You were
edit.
fine. You were fine. Don't worry about that. That was not a problem. I won't because of who is in my earshot, but you're perfectly fine. But yeah, so like
You have to drop some curse words.
you were perfectly fine. This is just the conversation. You are all good. So is there so like, how are your children navigating essentially being tied to three different communities? Like how do you help them learn their different cultures and the places in which they're connected?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we try to do like a bunch of different things. Like our one go-to restaurant during this pandemic time was this Filipino restaurant in Nyack. And we loved it. We would drive, it's like a half hour away. And we would drive and get this Filipino food because it was like our like comfort food during this pandemic time, So like we definitely expose them to food, to culture. I think that they live in a different time than I did. Like I think that when I grew up wearing my shawar kameez, which is the ethnic garb, or it was just like, what is that? Where doing henna on their hands, or like, what's on your hands? Where now, like my son, for his eighth grade dance, he wore a kurta and he matched it with a friend, and they both did henna on their hands, which is just so awesome. Like, like they're so proud of where they've come from that you could go to like an eighth grade dance and this is my dress up clothes, you know? And also at the eighth grade graduation, a lot of girls were wearing their ethnic clothing, which was amazing.
That is awesome. That is I'm so happy to hear this.
Yeah, it's
That
amazing.
is that is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. I have to say, my favorite thing about the pandemic is, even though I'm not wearing it in this moment, but I am wearing the earrings, is that I've been wearing head wraps. Some of it by necessity.
Yeah.
Like I wear head wraps in person a lot more. But like there's a point before the pandemic that happened. Before the pandemic happened, I walked into the office wearing a head wrap, and my coworkers were like, "Oh, this is great. You look great." And I was like, "No, no, this is only because I was traveling." And I took it off before my bosses walked in. And they're like, "Well, why would you do that?" Because I was like, "I don't want to. I don't need to deal with them." Like, I was like, "I don't need to deal with any of that." And it happened a lot once the
Right.
pandemic started,
Mhm.
but it happened a little. They've adjusted and to me being in head wraps now, and I'm like, I'm gonna show up
Yeah.
in my most blackity black self now. Y'all gonna have to deal with it, you know.
Definitely, definitely. I feel like, yeah, I think everybody should just show up in their authentic selves and just be, who they are. And I think with my son's school, I feel like these kids feel empowered that no one's going to bat an eye and no one's going to be like, oh my goodness, or anything. It's just like, all right, cool. That's you, and not even like, blinking at that, And so I just love that. I love that. And I love that for the kids, and I love that for our kids' future.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. And it's great to just have something to be tied to, like to be able to say that this is where my people are from, the good, the bad, the ugly, because there's a lot of stuff that happened in the Philippines. There's a reason why a lot of my Filipino friends look very different from each other. Like one of my friends is darker than I am, and others are all over the spectrum of how they came out of that place, but
the Philippines was
history.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel like, they were colonized as well, so by the Spanish. So what are you going to do?
Yep.
Colonizers.
It's amazing the impact that all of that has had and still has and still continues to. Like I realized at one point, and I was talking to my brother about this, that as I helped lead a poetry school, and I realized I was really loving our Asian students writing. And I realized why eventually I was, and it's because they were writing in a very British way. And I was like, oh, Dara, you need to check yourself. Like you need to check what you're liking,
That's right. That's right.
And it's like, it wasn't about them. It was like, oh, ooh. Okay.
Because we've been brainwashed. We've all been brainwashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of decolonize all of it.
We've all been told this is the standard, and we run by that standard even when we don't realize it, and it's very sad that that's what happens, but it's wonderful that you're able to have tapped into the different sides. So can I ask you what got you to really tap into the Filipino side of your family, like your history, your ancestry? Like what changed the shift?
I think, college. I feel like when you go to college, you just want to find more about yourself, right? Like I feel like I went to college and I was just like, I need to know more. I need to know more about my family and like all of that, like, reconnect with my family in Canada who are Filipino. Like I have Filipino family in Australia that I want to visit eventually. Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, they're not only in the Philippines, they're in Canada, Australia. Yeah, pretty fun places. So I can't wait to go visit. I just wanted to know more, to be honest, like, and just reconnect with everybody and show my kids there's more sides to me than just South Asian.
That's awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any fun facts about either the experience of being a mixed race child or that you've discovered from any one part or all parts of your community or yourself in this journey?
See, fun facts. I don't even know if there's any fun facts. I think that I'm happy that my sister's writing more stories about mixed race kids and how they are finding their way. Like it's a fictional story, but I think it's based in truth. And I think that I hope that there's more stories that mixed race people, kids, start writing and about that experience in America, because I feel like there's a lot of us out there, right? So
There is, and it's funny because we often think of, like, when we think of mixing, we only think of, like, especially since Loving Day was not so long ago, we only think of just white with someone else. We don't think of other ethnicities or racial groups mixing together at all. Right. But like there's one of my Chinese friends had a child with a Mexican man, and that's actually a common mixing that happens apparently. So there's a lot of mixing that happens that no one discuss, and there's all these different cultures that people have to now navigate. And I was actually watching Facebook, and I guess by virtue of that, TikTok or wherever these videos come from, there was like a mother and daughter doing like this clothing change thing, and they were changing outfits showing their nationalities or whatever. And so as they were doing it, they were like, the daughter had like all these different outfits, but the mother would like, she would change her outfit too depending if it applied to her. But the daughter was definitely like, the mother had immigrated to the United States from somewhere, and then they both moved to, I think they both moved to Hawaii. So like there's a Polynesian aspect to their whole cultural thing, even if that's not like part of their like like their actual DNA makeup, however you would look at that. But like she was Asian, but then there was like, and maybe there was South Asian in there. There was something else in there. So like the child just like kept changing all these different outfits. Like she definitely had like like a Chinese outfit at one point. She definitely, I think she was in a sari at some point. Like she had these different outfits happening. And you're just like, this is so fascinating, as they like just swapped outfits. It's like, this is like, but it was so beautiful too, to see this mother and daughter sort of doing this visually as they were exploring the differences in like where their journeys had led them, and also just what they were composed of.
Right. I 100% agree. It's just so interesting and amazing. And there are so many other stories. It's so funny that like how you mentioned that. Yeah, you usually think of white and something else, and then that's also white centering, right? You know, where our thought is all white centered on that. No, like, no, there's other ethnicities that come together and come up together in beautiful ways, and you could see it all on TikTok sometimes.
Thank goodness for TikTok, I guess. I'm not even on TikTok. People keep sending me links and stuff on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I can't.
I thought you said that whole sorry thing was a TikTok.
It was. No, it was. But like but things are like, people either send it to me or, you know, people are cross posting. So it's the only reason why I'm seeing anything on TikTok, because I'm like, I don't.
You can admit it.
No, it's one like Snapchat. It was like the end of my jumping social media. I was like,
I don't do TikTok either. My kids are all about TikTok. I do not know what's happening on TikTok, but I guess something happened over there.
I mean, great videos, I suppose, but I'm once I got to Snapchat and I was like, oh, it's designed for people to not keep up with this. Got it.
That's showing our age when we're talking about like, yeah, we're done with Snapchat. That's it. We're not doing TikTok.
And I mean, because then everyone copied those things too, with reels and whatever other. Yeah, I'm too old for it. Like, I finally reached my point where I'm just like, and now I am not cool enough. But I appreciate the random videos that people will send me from these places, and I watch them. So I think it was a TikTok that made it to like Instagram, and then I watched that, and I was like, oh, this is really fascinating to see the.
I think that's super cool. I love
I mean, yeah, and I mean, it's just important to like I'm glad you finally said that. Like, again, we've known each other like 20 years, and it never, like, why would I like, I don't care, because I don't care about what people are other than to learn about them. But like, in the context of like, you were Gatesha's wife, you were my brother's friend, like, that's, you guys did art, you guys did film and theater. Like, that's the buckets in my brain. You know, and if I needed Girl Scout cookies, go there.
Yeah.
Like,
that's right.
Those were the buckets in my brain, and that's what I kept. You know,
we have all of us have so many more buckets.
We do.
So many. All of us do.
I mean, that's why when you said that, I was like, wait, what? What is she talking? Are you mixed race? Like, that was you had to like hear me in my head go like, are you mixed race? I'm looking at your children in my brain going, but like, if you both are brown and they're brown,
where does it come from?
I had a moment, and I'm gonna own my moment, because, you know, we make assumptions and we just don't know, and we don't ask, we don't get to know these things. And look at how much I missed out on because I did not know.
Yes. Yeah, we all have to ask, and we all have to not make assumptions. And we have to know that everybody has so many more identities than what their outer identity is, right? So,
It's
like,
true.
that's for everybody, you know?
I mean, and it's like, and so I love this, the like, I hate and I love the whole DNA stuff now, right? Because now now I have 5,000 cousins that I'm never going to be cousins with. Like, I don't have the time to spend the time to try to figure out how we're related and pretend like we're really cousins, just because you're my fourth cousin from someone that we can't figure out and trace just because we share DNA. But I appreciate that what it did was solidify, because I'm African American. That's my story. And so my story essentially does end in slavery here. And so, but there's stories that my godfather and his brothers, so they're all my uncles and aunts and uncles, grand aunts and uncles, were telling us for years. And then even on my mom's side, there were some stories that made it. Some stories got lost, unfortunately. But there was things like there's some hint of having indigenous ancestors. There's some hints at like Russian or German ancestry, or Irish ancestry, all these little things that have been dropped and said, but no one really knew, because also you don't talk about the white people.
No, because that, yeah.
And so because of all of that, like, so much has gotten lost, and then to do the ancestry and find out that so much of that was actually accurate. So like, for the first time, my DNA actually did show the indigenous portion. And like, because they also, people of color were not getting tested, so the more people who get tested, the more accurate the test starts showing up. So my dad had tested and showed 1%, and I had never shown it, but I'm more diluted than he would be, so it never showed up. And then finally, as they're honing their stuff, it finally showed up on my radar. It originally I showed up as partially Asian on my first test, and then that disappeared. And then I now show up as like this 1% indigenous. But it's like, oh, so my family wasn't lying. I'm not going to run around and say I'm indigenous at all, but like, it's good to know that that picture that was shown on the thing, that was actually a relative that may be actually true, you know. And I say all of that because there's something in knowing, there's something in being able to say like, oh, I can stand on the land and understand that this is where people came from. So when I went to Scotland, and I had a whole spiritual moment, because that was the first time outside of the United States that had ever been on land that an ancestor was from.
Oh, wow.
Now, granted, I kept hearing this Black man over there was Scott Irish. And it really dawned on me where the Scott or Irish came from, or what they may have looked like.
Right.
But it was, so I had a whole moment when I was in Scotland too.
A lot of, yeah. Oh, it's tough.
As a full-grown adult, it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I had all the feelings.
Oh my goodness.
All the feelings as I realized Scotland's part of the slave trade. But like, it was still like, but this is still land that, master or another sharecropper or whatever, whomever that person was, it was master, but whatever. This is land that somebody lived on at some point, that was tied to 6-7 generations ago. And so that's so important. And so I'm talking a lot. This really is about you. But that whole like, just like, your kids get to have like so many different identities, to be able to go like, yes, I can go to the Philippines and be like, this is home. Yeah. And they get to go to India and be like, this is home. And they can go to Pakistan and be like, this is home. Yeah. Even if they may not feel like it's home either, but they may be able to.
Like, when I went to Hawaii, I felt like this is home. And because there's a lot of Filipino people there, like, and I have family in Hawaii as well.
Where don't you have family? Can you just tell me that part?
Like, Filipinos go, they scattered
everywhere.
So I feel like, and because there's so many Filipinos in Hawaii, I felt like this is home. Like, I really do identify with my Filipino side, even though I don't know, like, I guess I don't look it per se, but like I feel like I do identify. But what is looking like a like what is that really?
Again, like remember the first Filipino person that I could consciously was aware of is darker than I am.
Right.
And so, you know,
We can look at like anything really. And
exactly.
so
So it is not I think
that. That's why the Pakistani in me is stronger. I look like my dad, but you can see a little bit of my mom in me.
hey, as long as you identify and you recognize and everyone else is gonna have to deal with it. You know what I mean? That's also part of it. Like everyone else is gonna have to deal.
That's right.
Yeah. It's oh my goodness. I'm so excited you chose to do this topic. Like I'm really like
Fun. It's a fun topic to think about in different ways. But when you were speaking, I'm like, yeah, that is it. Like that's really fascinating, and all the things that you feel with that. That's amazing, and also not amazing.
yeah.
Amazing and not amazing. So.
Yeah. Did you ever have problems where people may have felt like you weren't one of them? Did that ever happen?
That's funny you said ask that. It's so funny because that's, the show. I keep bringing back to the show that my sister wrote, but it has all the things about being mixed race. It's like like the big question was, am I Indian enough? Like yeah, in the show. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's also based in truth because my sister and I like have the imposter syndrome sometimes. Are we don't speak the language, so are we Indian enough? And are you Filipina enough? Like we're neither here nor there. So that's what's hard about being mixed race. So yeah, you always feel like, are you whatever culture enough, And then you have to kind of navigate that on your own and really figure that you do belong and you're not an imposter in your own culture, and other people have to just like deal with it. Like you said, whether, like you decide I'm Filipino enough, I'm Pakistani enough, and I know that within myself. No one else has to validate me because
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's a journey. I think it's really tough when you're a kid, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like it's been a journey for me. And I feel like you start that journey kind of in college when you're mixed. I think maybe not for everybody, but like I feel like sometimes that's where you really start exploring your identity and like really exploring who you are as a person. And you go through that through your life, I think.
It's interesting. Yeah. So one of my partners, like I mentioned, I help run a poetry school. And one of the people that we work with is Indian, but she was born and raised in Dubai. But when we met her, she was in the Philippines. And so she was trapped there for a year because it was the beginning of COVID. And so even still, and she went to college in the UK. So, she gets oftentimes we do this thing on the last Saturday of the month. And so last Sunday of the month. So we actually didn't do it this week because none of us were available to really do it. But she'll read people's poems and people will send her poems and they'll try to send it to her in Hindi. And she's like, great. It has to be in Arabic script. It has to be in like in English. Like I can read it if it's written in this way, but if you write it in Hindi, I cannot read it. And she writes her poems. Like she has poems in both English and Hindi, but she cannot read it. And so if people keep trying to give it to her that way, she goes, yeah,
Can't do it.
it's not gonna happen. And so it's so fascinating, just like when you're not native to wherever the culture is from,
Yeah.
that automatically becomes a thing, and it's funny, some cultures automatically will like accept you back in. Like Nigerians are like, you're Nigerian, like they always immediately like, oh yeah, no, you're one of us, I see it. And like because of my name, they're like, no, but you just like just Oladara, that's just you're one of us. And I'm just like, My DNA does not say that that's my majority. But they're like, you're one of, and I'm just like, well, or they'll try to manipulate my name. I was like, my name is actually from a Swahili
Right.
origin. So I don't have additional letters in my name. It's just Dara. You know? I get that Nas's father has a longer version of that name, but mine is just Dara, you know? And so some cultures will immediately see you as family and bring you in. And
Yeah.
others are like, oh no, but you're very Western.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
And
Yeah.
you don't make the cut because you're white. No matter what your skin is,
Yeah.
you're white because you don't
Right.
operate like us.
Yeah. Or they just don't know where to place you, right? They're like, what?
Yeah.
How could that possibly be? Like, because, so, oh, I didn't even I can't even believe this part of my identity we're just getting to. So I was brought up Muslim.
I was
And
gonna ask if you had never said it. I was like, I'm going to leave it alone because she hasn't mentioned it yet. She mentioned it, her religion, but she hasn't said which one it was. So continue. Yes.
brought up Muslim, and I married a Hindu. And in those two cultures, it there's a lot of history there, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not good history. And so when you see my name, like most Muslims will know, oh, Mirza, that's a very Muslim name. But Pandya is a very Hindu name. Why are they together? I don't understand. So like my whole self is like, people can't understand it. What?
So, so what is your first name?
So Ruhi is actually Urdu. So like that's also Muslim.
Okay.
But
Okay. I was like, wait, if you tell me it's a Filipino name, I'm gonna like lose my mind. That would have been so amazing,
I
but
don't
apparently not.
know.
I need you to go change your name now.
It needs to be Filipino. It needs to really blow everyone's mind. Like, what? No,
Which really means it just needs to be a Spanish name, but right. That's a whole different issue. Sorry.
Terrible. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like that's a whole nother thing. When they say my name, like South Asians, they literally are like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how those two names came together. Like
you're just hurting people's heads.
I know, I'm really hurting their heads.
So can I ask a question in terms of like, are you guys raising your children with any particular religious leanings or no, or?
No, not really. I think that we're teaching them both. And, we just actually want them to be good people. That's more the most important for us, and I think that they can find their own spirituality when they get older if they want. But like as long as they know all religions, and they can pick whatever they want when they're older. Like we don't want to force anything on them. I think that's because our own families were so religious in their own respect that we kind of were like, nah.
Was your mom Muslim as well?
No, she was Catholic because that's what Filipino people are. They're Catholic.
So how did
converted to be Muslim? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's so crazy. I was like, wow, I'm finding out so much.
I mean, I know Muslim folks are very open to dating anyone, generally speaking. But I know
gotta convert.
Yeah. They come off as open, but then there is this push for conversion ultimately that's under it. But like, yeah, so that's okay.
Wild.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, right, that's a whole different part that I don't really talk about because it's not something like really at top of mind for Hitesh and I. Like we are more about the culture, like South Asian culture. We really enjoy showing that to the kids, but we also enjoy showing them Filipino culture, Mm-hmm. So I think that for us, it's more about just being a kind person and being a good citizen in this world. That's all you want from people,
So you
right?
two haven't converted each other either way, no? Okay. just checking. I have to ask.
Yeah. No, Muslims and Hindus can cohabitate together without killing each other.
Okay. Well, you guys are a little UN or in your own home. That's amazing. So is there something that frustrates you about the way the treatment of the optics of the states? I mean, and we've even sort of hit on it a little bit, but it may not be what your key thing is, but is there anything that's frustrating for you about the perception of or anything tied to mixed race children or the experience of?
I just feel like, I don't think we talk about it that much. And I like how you were saying, when you do think of mixed race, you think about it white plus something else. And that's not necessarily true. Like we've talked about, there's so many different types that can mix together. But immediately you just think like, oh, white plus something else. And that's a mixed race. And that's like I think a peeve. That would be my irritation about it, like, come on, let's not white center everything.
Why not? Why not? I mean, come on. It's been working so far.
Oh my goodness.
We're doing spectacular right now.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'm clearly having a lot of feelings about the current state of the world.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's terrible.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Did you see? Oh, I can't. I'm not even gonna do it. We're not gonna do it because this is not what the conversation is about. We'll do that later. There's a video that's been going around about someone who made a statement, and I was just like, "Whoa!" She said a statement that was very centered, exactly that. So we'll talk about that a different time.
Okay.
But that all said, so how do people like? So clearly, I did not know anything, right? Like I didn't matter, or it did matter, but I was just never thought to ask or whatever, right? How do those of us who only think of like white plus,
Mm-hmm.
how do we support, engage, ask, what can we people do, if there's anything that we can do?
I just feel like people can just educate themselves, right? Like, and really learn about more cultures besides one, like, particular culture or what, like, I feel like you learn as much as you can and read as much as you can, go to the theater, like with other, like, go to non-white theater. Let's just put it that way. Go see non-white theater. You'll learn so much there, and that's what you could do. I think that's the biggest thing, is really try to consume different kinds of media that's not white centered, and then you'll learn so much more.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, is that we need to go. And like, I think this is part of the reason why I don't want to leave New York, honestly, is because my friends are everything. And it's been being able to have like, it's funny because I want to say, I don't think this is true. Gujarati is pretty common, right?
Gujarati, yeah.
Yeah. So that's not the case. So my friends are not that. They're from like, so a long time ago, my friend met this guy when Friendster was a thing, and they both happen to be from the same small part of India. And like it's not, and they speak the same random language, just not the main common one, right? And now they're happily married, but like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even know that. And like my friend who's Guyanese was married at some point to someone who was Gujarati. I can't even get the words out my mouth correctly anymore because it's, bedtime. Um, it's not bedtime, but that's how it feels. It was bedtime when I woke up this morning. So yes, but like, and then again, like the first Filipino woman I met was darker than I am, but then also like I didn't even, the first people I know who were Guyanese were Black, and then all of a sudden everyone I knew who was Guyanese was South Asian. I was like, whoa, wait, where'd you all come from? Like, there was only Black people in Guyana.
I have a lot of Guyanese friends that are both Black and Indian. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it all changed. Like it was like, oh, okay. So then you learn this other stuff about how all of the things happened and people migrated and yeah. All these like, and it's so fascinating, but you don't learn these things until you learn and meet people and find out where people are from and go, wait, how do you have a West Indian accent? That's not the accent I expected from you. And you, like, when you're like, oh, you eat this, we all eat roti? Wait, how did we get to roti? Okay, explain this one to me. And like, and you start eating the different versions and variations of, and you start hanging out in people's homes and enjoying the foods. And I mean, I have a sari that may fit me again, actually, in my closet that I wore to her wedding, but like, until you start having these different interactions with people, you don't know. And like, they don't know things. Like my friends, the first time I got to college and my two white roommates saw me take my braids out, they were like, oh, so that's how that happens.
You had to just make friends with like all types of people. And I can't leave New York because I feel like you meet so many different types of people here, right here in Brooklyn and Manhattan. I just feel like I can't leave.
Yeah, like there's so many people and there's so many cultures and there's so many experiences and there's so many tastes and there's so many colors and like I hate New York because all we wear is black and gray, but like you look at all these other cultures and you're like my friend, my coworker who's Nigerian keeps going like, you don't have to match your colors. And I was like, you don't? It's like, but they have to match. No, they don't. It was but it does. Like, but really it doesn't. But like, these are like, just see, and it's beautiful to like be free to see different things or learn like, and like, I think your point is exactly that. Go to these different shows, go and support these different arts and different artists and learn.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. Just learn, and surround yourself with people who are different than you. New York City is the place to do that. You can find everybody here, So it's proven just now. You found me, 20 years ago, and now you're like, wow, you're mixed race. Wow.
Yes, and like all these things, I'm like, oh my, you're Muslim, like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, all the things, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, now I know so much more, and I'm so glad we had this conversation.
Yeah, like what you're doing here, I think that's amazing. Like you're having conversations with all sorts of people, which is so cool. Like I think that people can listen to this podcast. That's a great way to learn about different types of folks, like I think all of that.
That's my main goal, is like, I love, so when I was in college, I studied a lot of different things, but one of my minors was anthropology. And so I just enjoy cultures. I enjoy learning about how people view and see and perceive the world and how they exist, like, and the artifacts of said cultures and like what those things mean, like what the fabric means and just holding on to those things, and so it's beautiful. It's what makes the world amazing. It's the different flavors. It's the different, I mean, I don't eat spicy food, so I avoid some of those flavors, but
Spicy food. I can't even do spicy food. People are like, "Are you really brown?" I'm like, "I don't look. There's a certain level I can do, and then it's not enjoyable anymore." You know?
Food should not be torture, and some reason people think it should be, and God bless them, those that think it should be. But I just, there's a point, and
Yeah.
my point is like about here. But what happened is I love spicy food, and then I accidentally had a full serving of jerk chicken that had like the full jerk happening, and that was the end.
Yeah. I can't do full, I could do a little mild jerk. Not the
Not,
full on.
don't even, no jerk. Like just, before the seasoning gets to it, that's where I want it. You know? But like you still get to appreciate the other parts of the flavor before you get to the actual burn down your mouth and your insides as it works its way out. Like, yeah, but some people are built that way, and that's good. But it's good to like at least try it. And it's you never know about people and cultures. So I think it's definitely I'm glad that you liked my post about the podcast. I'm glad you trusted me enough to just like have this conversation, because honestly, like I knew I know you to be dynamic. I've always appreciated your energy. I've always been like, oh, we're in the same room. So even if we've not been in the same room together for longer than I realized. um, and it's funny because I did not even see this topic coming. But when you said this topic, I was like, well, this is the one you're clearly passionate about. So like, why would we not have this conversation? And it's important, especially like, when I'm not having children. I don't have children. I'm not going to be that person. So it's so important as you think about your children and like how to continue that on for them. And it's also, as crazy as this world is, this is also a time period where those differences are really being accepted too.
I
So
think
it's beautiful that they got to like that they show up to the 8th grade graduation.
yeah, I think so. I think it's beautiful. I think that the future is with our kids. And, I think that hopefully, hopefully, I don't know, like after this past week, I'm all like, hopefully it'll get better for them. Hopefully they can fight back and be able to make things right again. Who knows? But like if it's up to this generation, these kids, I feel like they can do it. If anyone can, it's them.
It's funny. I really hope so. And I think I would like to think so, but I also know a lot of those terrible people also reproduced. And that's the part.
I'm like, don't talk about those guys.
That's the bad part though. They also, and they're trying to make more of them. They're trying to make more of them. That's the whole problem where we are today. They're trying to make more of them.
Oh.
But that's okay, because you have really awesome children, and a lot of people that I know are having really awesome children. I'm really excited by my friends having great children, because it does give hope. And if they are standing on legacies such as that of you, your sister, and Gatesh, then they can only go upwards and continue to like expand. And if they're like doing this stuff now, if they may not need college to be the point where they step into their own place and world. Like for me, it was actually probably high school. It wasn't college.
Yeah.
So, and look at the Parkland group. It was high school when they started becoming powerhouses, not necessarily by choice, but experience. So we don't even have to wait for them to really
find themselves in college. They could do it now. Hopefully.
Exactly. They could be, I mean, Amanda Gorman ain't that old, and look at what she did with her poetry. Now she's teaching master classes. I keep getting advertisements for her master class. Right. It's like, darn it, why am I not teaching a master class?
Right? You love the youth, but you're also like, ah.
Like, how did that get skipped? I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I 100% feel you on that.
Exactly. So I think we've covered everything. So you just say you are a producer.
Yeah,
You said you just wrapped up a film.
yep. I just shot a short film, and we're working on a bunch of other films that we're putting out there. Like we also do like media consulting. So, you know, I think that
So how do people find the things that your fingerprint is on in terms of we're talking about go support these type of works and watch stuff. So like people need to know how to go find these things.
right. So I'm working on my website, but you can definitely check it out, even though it's a work in progress. It's Desipina, which is DESIPINA.org. Oh, it's Hello Desipina, actually. It's Hello Desipina. Sorry.
Hella?
Hello. Like
Hello, Desipina. Okay.
Yeah. Because someone stole my other. I've had Desipina for 20 years, and it's a long story. This is a long story that we don't need to do here.
But I get it. I get it because I purposefully am holding on to my old my page now is Dara Kalima, but I still have DKM, Dara KM. Yeah. I have my old domain on purpose because I'm just like, no one's gonna get it, even if I'm not using it.
Desipina.org when it was down for like a minute, and they just took it, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? What are you gonna do? How many Pakistani Filipinos that are in the arts? I think not that many.
There's clearly at least one other person that they were like, I'm watching you.
Yes, and and I'm going to use it for my own. So now I have to use Hello Desipina.
That's okay. This will be the better, more improved website, and that's awesome. So we will be checking you out on Hello Desipina. Because as we said, the only way to learn more about these different communities is to actually support them and watch their stuff, consume this, because there's a appreciation for culture and people when you actually are engaging in the things that they create.
That's right.
So support Rohi. I was going to say the rest of your name, but I know I was going to destroy it immediately.
Get my first name right, which is awesome because most people do not. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I was like, I'm not good. I don't like butchering names. So I'm just going to do Rohi. So support Rohi at Hello. Disappear. Oh, goodness. All right. It has been amazing speaking with you. Here on behalf of, I told you this would be fun, right? Was it fun? Did I promise you that?
You did deliver on the fun. It was super easy. It was super fun. I loved it. Everyone should do this podcast because I feel like it was a lot of fun.
See, I told you could do it. So that all said, thank you for coming, and check the next episode, guys.